Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, rejoined by my good colleague, buddy, and pal of one, Mr. Brian E. Roach. Brian, man, we missed you. It's only been a week, but...
Trust me, nobody missed me complaining about how crappy they are.
You'd be surprised. The people, you are a man of the people. You know what? I'm screwing around on my desk before we get started, and it's like... I have like all of these like little trinkets, they're almost like stress balls. I got one, it's like a golf one. My daughter got me, best dad by par. My fiance's son got me a positive potato. And then she also got me this like little, this football one. And he's always sit on my desk, but it was funny because this one, the golf ball one, had just rolled right off of the side there, just kind of like you did there. And...
Hey, there you go. I'm over there. Hey, which way do I need to go?
Like,
which way do I go? Which way do I go?
He's kind of like Kilroy sometimes. I did the bobblehead without you, but I could have done like the positive football, they were like positivity knitted whatever, but it says you are a great catch. So these are, I don't know. I'm getting all these.
That's sweet.
We're going to find out. I don't know if there's a good segue for that. Will there be a great catch Sunday? We got to set the stage for this game. I know we don't have many positive things to say. I was a little more less let me start this off before I set the stage here, where we have the 3-6 Cincinnati Bengals coming to the 5-4 Pittsburgh Steelers. And this isn't the way that Matt Williamson said it on Steelers Nation Radio, but it got me thinking. Okay, Steelers against the Colts. Which side of the ball won that game for the Steelers? The offense or the defense?
The defense.
Okay. Last weekend against the Chargers in LA, which side of the football lost that game for the Steelers? The offense?
The offense.
Or the defense? Okay. So against the Cincinnati Bengals, round one in Cincinnati, who was at fault for that game?
The defense and the offense.
I'd say the defense. Well, I'd say the defense. The offense put up
more
like,
the defense.
Yeah,
more the defense.
What, like 31 points? So
yeah,
it just got me going with the whole. And then the Bengals, I think, are the first team in NFL history to score 38 points, or at least 38 points on offense, and lose back-to-back games. But it got me thinking about how inconsistent the season has been, and who needs to show up this Sunday in order for the Steelers to have a shot. Last time the defense couldn't cover anything, and there's a little bit of a shakeup there this time around. But then last week the offense, I thought the defense at least they did enough, at least even through three quarters. Had been my argument. They held the Chargers to the second fewest points, etc. They got off the field. They forced punts. There was only 25 yards in the first quarter by the Chargers offense, but the Steelers offense just did not play complementary football. And there was an interesting stat, I think, also. Williamson throws out these stats, I think, on like Friday. They pull up all these numbers, right? And I mean, the Steelers pass rush is, they've been blitzing the most, like, out of the league. They're top 5. Their pass rush actually gets there. I think the time the quarterbacks have to throw is like the fewest in the league. Like they're getting there, but they necessarily aren't getting like, if this was Pro Football Focus, it'd be like, yeah, they have like this pass rush win, whatever thing that when they gave Garrett the Defensive Player of the Year instead of Watt, who actually had sacks. And the actual sacks have been missing. Plus the secondary, their efficiency hasn't been as high. And it's like, wow, how does that end up working out? So what adjustments can they make? The other players that they need to make adjustments with. But he had said something that really, really hit home for me. And it was, last week was plus 15 minutes time of possession in favor of the Chargers. You can't be doing that, because he said the defense will be playing upwards if this trend continues in the way it has been. 3 full football games, I think he said. I was like, is that possible in a 17-game schedule?
Yeah.
I'm like, that will wear you out. That'll wear you thin. That'll make, no matter how much you spend on the defense, worthless when you can't play complementary football.
100%. The defense was not the problem against San Diego. You and I talked about that, and that's just a fact. The defense did the best they could to hold up over the stretch of the game. The offense just literally did nothing to help them. Too many 3-and-outs, too many turnovers, too many problems, inconsistent. It goes back to what I've been saying all season. They play, and this is the good side of this, I'll get to in a second. They play the best when they get turnovers. Why? Because the defense gets off the field quickly, you have sudden change, and the offense is in a position where they can't screw it up too badly. This offense cannot survive negative plays. If they get a failure on first down, they're in trouble. If they have a penalty on first down, they're in double trouble. They need to stay on schedule and consistently stay on schedule, and they have not proven they can do that consistently. When they have a short field, they have the better chance of at least getting 3 out of it. When they have a long field to go, they're in trouble. They're just in trouble. So the defense, remember I said after the Colts game, I wasn't going to celebrate until they showed me some consistency. That's actually 2 games in a row where the defense played well. Am I ready to sign on to everything is fixed? No. Why? Because neither one of those teams was Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Right?
No, that's very true. And we know the Steelers will let's set some more of the stage, some of the housekeeping business, some of the stuff that somebody called me boring for last week. You know what, bro? I don't care. But I definitely wasn't boring in the post game. I can tell you that much, Brian. I was a little fiery. I got the old eye tearing up for no particular reason. I know what the particular reason is. Let's just go to
the map.
The Steelers. The Steelers are in blue. There's only 3 games in the early CBS window.
Who's in red?
Tampa Bay and Buffalo Bills, the Bucks and Bills. So 2 teams that are a little better here. Nobody wants to see the stinky defenses.
Well, I don't know. The Bills lost to the Dolphins. I mean,
I know,
come
man.
on.
And then the Chargers Jaguars is the other area. So Eugene, Oregon.
Except for the part of Oregon that does that, which makes no sense to me.
Eugene.
I get the Southern California part, but why the hell does anybody in Oregon give a crap about Jacksonville or Los Angeles, San Diego?
You know what? We should at least let folks know. Fort Wayne, Indiana, down to Louisville, Kentucky, Lexington. You got all of Ohio. Most of Pennsylvania, except for a little carve out up there, I think in the Allegheny National Forest area, gets the Buffalo Bills game. Everyone else is getting the Steelers on down to D.C., Baltimore, parts of Norfolk, Virginia, and most of Northern Virginia there, and then all of West Virginia. So 1 o'clock game, CBS, a little bit different crew this time than usual for the 113th overall meeting between these 2 teams. Steelers 28-game lead in the regular season. Mike Tomlin 26-11 versus the Bengals. Zach Taylor 6-7 against the Steelers in his 7th season as the head coach in Cincinnati. 1 o'clock kickoff at Acrisure Stadium, which is going to have a banging game Saturday. Notre Dame and Pitt. So college game days there already set up at Pitt. So we're hoping the surface for the field's going to be okay on this one, Brian. I mean, it's going to get well used. But Kevin Harlan on the call for CBS with Trent Green, Melanie Collins on the sidelines. Of course, Steelers Audio Network, Rob King, Max Starks, Missy Matthews. Satellite feed for the Steelers, 121 on Sirius, 232 on XM, 826 on the interwebs. Bill Vinovich is your referee. Steelers are actually favored by almost a touchdown. They're minus 5.5 points with an over-under of 48.5. I think.
Did somebody not watch the last game?
I'm surprised the over-under isn't like 55 or something. That would be a real sucker bet. But you see where Vegas and the sports books are going with this one. What other news and notes do I have? Let's see some housekeeping on the injury report. I got to flip back up to the Steelers. You know what? I'm going to refresh this real quick too and make sure we did. Yes, we have the full status now. I knew we did before I set up. We don't have a game status for Scotty Miller. Finally participated in full all across the board. DK Metcalf shows up limited on Friday. It just says not available. Or resting veteran, basically. Darius Slay ruled out for concussion. So the asshole that was sitting there on social media, who has a pretty good following and said that he's soft and always gets hurt and was making fun of Darius Slay, these knee-jerk reactions and hot takes are, you know what, dude, like, let's see you have to deal with concussion protocol, right? Pretty serious thing and then be making fun of. So yeah, I will call that. I won't call them out by name, but if you saw it, you know who it is. Corey Trice, he was in this 21-day window. Are we at 21 days? We got to be pretty damn close to it. He might not be back at all this season. They activated him, and it looks like he's either gotten hurt again or just can't be much of a participant. Jabril Peppers is back, fully participated all of this week. Cole Holcomb rolled out, still dealing with illness complications, apparently, and also losing Alex Highsmith, a pretty big and notable one here, who had a monster game last week with a pair of sacks. He was playing very well. He's out with a pectoral injury, questionable with his pectoral injury, and as he did not participate was Isaac Seumalo. They desperately need him back. Back to full participation was Broderick Jones, also a good sight. And then you had 3 resting veterans throughout the week with Jonnu Smith, TJ Watt, Cam Hayward. Bengals have a whole load of injuries that they're dealing with too. Maybe not as they're major enough, I guess you'll say. Joe Burrow was the big name, but they're looking for him to participate by Thanksgiving when they have to play the Ravens on a Thursday night. He's already been ruled out for this game. He was just limited. They're just getting his feet wet, and toe injury, I guess, is a good yuck. There, Jermaine Burton, illness, back to full participation. Joe Flacco has been in and out. He was really questionable for last week and ended up playing. Yeah. He's having some shoulder issues. He was limited Thursday. That's it. He didn't practice Wednesday or Friday. Maybe they're just resting the older guy. It's going to be one to keep an eye on, because if they end up having Jake Browning play, it's the whole reason they went and got Flacco.
Then we win.
Yeah, then it should be like a landslide victory.
It's a different game.
Knock on wood for the Steelers there, right? Let's jump back. I'm saying way too often, but Trey Hendrickson, it was already speculated to be ruled out earlier in the week. Hip/pelvis. BJ Hill's unspecified unspecified game status, but
you know what they say about that.
The hips don't
lie.
The hips don't lie.
Hips don't lie.
Pelvis to pelvis.
I don't know how to sing. I can't sing Shakira songs. I don't know how.
Well, let's not have you doing Shakira impressions while I was sitting over here doing my Myron Cope yoy, the double yoy coming from Brian. So I don't want to bring the map back. I wanted to bring that back. BJ Hill, though, resting veteran. It was an unspecified. I don't know why they put unspecified on here. That's the Bengals filling this out. Lucas Patrick, guard, limited. Sanjay Perine, who had a pretty big impact as a change of pace with Chase Brown in the last game. He's out with an ankle. Shamar Stewart, one of the edge rushers, out, rookie, out with an ankle.
Who they got rushing now?
They've got what's his
Trey
name?
Hendrickson, no Shamar Stewart.
Miles Murphy, who they had in the last game, I believe. They don't. Yeah, the Bengals are kind of thin there. I mean, they're thin on defense. Period. Who'd they trade? Yeah. Logan Wilson over to the Dallas Cowboys, one of their middle linebackers, and Marco Wilson, who was dealing with the hamstring, full participant all week, but. Basically, like, who they got left on defense, Brian. That's what we're going to be ended up talking about. In the last meeting, though, it was the Steelers defense. We're wondering where they were. Joe Flacco, 342 yards, 3 touchdowns, 31 of 47. Really made them look silly. Completed 66% of his passes, a 108.6 rating. Aaron Rodgers was fountain of youth too. He completed nearly as many passes, 67.6, 249. Had the 2 interceptions, one ripped away by DJ Turner. That was in DK Metcalf's hands. Other one that was in the middle of the field when they were wearing those all-white jerseys. Ben Roethlisberger on his show was saying, hey, is that kind of like camouflage? Salute the Service game would speculate maybe so. It was like that Arctic camo that I've got up here with the terrible towel. So we'll see. But Rodgers threw 4 touchdowns in that game. Pat Freiermuth, who's been a killer, as have most tight ends been toward the Bengals, 5 catches, 111 yards, and 2 touchdowns, including the 68-yard strike. But Jamar Chase, also on the other hand, He was targeted 23 times of the 47 attempts with Joe Flacco. 33 of those went to Chase and or T. Higgins, who had 10. Both of these guys, Higgins was 4 yards shy of 100 yards. He had a touchdown. Chase had a touchdown but caught 16 for 161. They both caught a pass on the game-winning drive in the last game. That's going to be the big story as we go forward. But what's at stake? This is a big one, Brian. They got to have this. This is within the division.
Absolutely.
This one will put separation and probably put Cincinnati, push them further back, especially if Joe Burrow's going to be returning in a few weeks here. If they lose this and Burrow comes back, it opens the door for Cincinnati to make a return. So they got to have this game.
Well, if they lose this, then the Ravens will be in first place by the end of the weekend. So, you know, they absolutely, as early as it is, this is a must-win game. They're going to have a lot of must-win games coming up if they want to maintain their lead in the division. But this is absolutely critical. This is where the season turns. It either goes in a direction we hope it goes, or it goes south. They lose this game, and you can write the rest of this year off, in my opinion, because they're not gonna stay ahead of the Ravens. Their best they're gonna hope for is a wild card, and I don't think they're even gonna get that.
Yeah, you know what's kind of funny though? You've got exactly with the wild cards and everything. You've got Buffalo that's trailing now the 9-2 New England Patriots, first team to win 9 games this season. A team that the Steelers beat. The 2 of their losses, one of them's to the Steelers. The Colts are 8-2. One of their losses, Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers are somehow capable. You don't know which team you're getting from week to week. The consistency has definitely been a problem. If both sides of the ball show up, that's, you know, it's kind of important. And they're talking about some different changes defensively, right?
I'm going to tell you, but look back at those 2 games that we won that nobody thought we were going to win. The Patriots. Well, nobody knew the Patriots were going to win, you know, reel off 7 or 8 wins in a row after we beat them. But you know, the key to both those games, turnovers. Without turnovers, they probably lose both those games.
Well, that's very true. And then the offense turns the ball over too. So you end up in the minus department. And that's where, you know, the defense definitely is predicated on, if you've got a game where neither team is turning over the ball, we hadn't seen them getting off the field on some third downs. Even somewhere, you know, you get a penalty, the other team gets a penalty, they get set back at 3rd and 16, and somehow they get 17 yards. They're starting to edge a little better that way. At least I thought so against the Chargers. I think the Chargers have enough weapons there, but they're talking about, like, a lot of people are speculating a lot of the blitzing. I think they're going to, like, stop with sending in. I think they send the most. It was something like almost 10% more than anybody else. Particularly, they're sending 6+ on some of these blitzes.
And not getting there. And
they're not getting there, but they're also trying to play man. I don't think Darius Slay was doing very well in man. Brandon Echols last week, unlucky. I think he played fine, but that one catch by McConkey was just like everything lined up in just the Chargers' favor. It wasn't
he had
like
great coverage.
Yeah,
he had great coverage about it.
And throughout
it's great
the game.
Play.
But one of the 2 linchpins, you got a lot of newness. You got Jalen Ramsey moving to safety. You got Kyle Duggar, who came in and immediately starting, and it doesn't seem like there's any of the big shots that are really going down the field. It's been mostly middle of the field type stuff. You're going to have to look for Noah Fant, tight end. You're going to have to look for those quick slants, those quick outs, Jamar Chase. But I think they're going to be playing a little more zone. Now, the question is, how many healthy bodies do they have? Because Slay's out. Trice hasn't come back. You've had James Pierre, who's been playing decent, but it's going to be Joey Porter, right? You got Ramsey now moved to safety. You've got Echols. Does Asante Samuel Jr. now end up on the... I mean, he hasn't played football in like a year.
That's a good question.
He hasn't played football in a year, so how much can you expect of him first game? And he's never really been a man-to-man guy from all indications. Definitely a ball hawk, definitely a willing tackler. And Mike Pursuta was talking about how he said he feels better than ever. He said he used to have like this shoulder pain, whatever nagging aches or whatever. And once he had this spinal surgery, he had a freak accident at practice that occurred last year with the Chargers. And he was going to be a prized free agent, and he just wasn't ready. He wasn't cleared. The Steelers cleared him. The Steelers doctor apparently is the one who did this surgery. He went to like 6 different teams before he settled on Pittsburgh. How quickly can he settle in? I mean, when you talk about communication issues with the defense, You got Ramsey playing in a new spot. He's been here, but this is his first year still as a Steeler in the Steelers defense. Duggar's been here for 2 weeks. You have Samuel just showing up. I think Eccles will probably play on the outside, and maybe you have Samuel sprinkle in, or maybe Pierre play special teams.
He might play a little slot.
Maybe he dresses at least,
Yeah.
And then maybe they sprinkle him in for a few plays. He's got to get in football shape, as we say, because these guys on the secondary, they play 100% of the game, and now you're playing against two of the best receivers that the best receiver tandem in the National Football League. I mean, I shouldn't even say maybe. I think they are. I don't think there's any question about that. I can't think of anybody else. I don't think there's
any question.
I don't think there's anybody else who stacks quite up against that. So, how much do you see as Samuel? And the things that were working for the Steelers stopping the run was like playing like Malik Harrison now, who's come back from IR. That's not a guy you want out on the field in pass coverage.
No.
So
I mean, it's funny you mentioned it is. It seems like the defense's Achilles heel is 3rd and long. My buddy Don Roberts, he tells me this all the time. He'll text me during the game sometimes. When we're texting, he's like, "Oh God, 3rd and long. We're definitely going to get a first down." And it does seem that's the problem, right? 3rd and long, and we always seem to give up a long play. 3rd and medium seems to be the right thing. You and I were joking one time about this. We figured out it's 3rd and 16. That's the minimum, right?
Yeah.
If it's 3rd and 16 and above, they're probably okay. It'll end up being 4th and 1.
Yeah.
But if it's 3rd and 15, they're going to give up a first down.
You know where that came from? And it's weird that you say that, but it was like the John 316. And, you go to WWE and the Austin 316. The 316, that number was just stuck in my head. But if it's the thing among the kids now, Brian, is the 6'7". I don't know if you've heard this.
Wait.
Yeah. Piss somebody off in the comments, definitely.
I don't know what that is.
I don't know. It's not as cool as like when we were the 6'9", but that's a whole other story.
Nice.
But 3rd and 6 or 7, that probably a home run. It's probably an automatic first down each time. Or they'll give up the 6 and then the 7 comes on 4th down. You got a lot of teams that are a lot more aggressive. I think this is something like the Colts are they play aggressive, right? But the Steelers are playing against the Bengals team with 3 wins. They're going to be aggressive. Maybe not fake punt aggressive, but they're going to be aggressive enough because what the hell do they have to lose? Same thing when they're playing against the Cleveland Browns. A lot of these teams on the schedule early were teams that are probably desperate, and they've got nothing to lose by just going for it. Screw the analytics, throw it out the window, and the Steelers defense ends up, we got 3rd down. Yeah, we're going to, oh no, it's 4th down now. And we give up 2 yards, and that's it. Nobody can stop all these tush pushes and pushing from behind and everything else that's going on. So the league is very offensive focused, which is where the Steelers, the Steelers need to be. And Rodgers realized, even in that win with the Colts, you hear what he had to say. They need more from that side of the ball. He definitely laid an egg last week. So this is his little redemption thing. Who do they got? Like, who's out there? Geno Stone, DJ Turner. There's really no one that's out there to rush the pass. If the Steelers could keep Rodgers upright, he needs to make some big plays and give him a little bit of time. Maybe he could find DK Metcalf. Maybe he could find one of these small, shifty, fast receivers. I know he was talking earlier this week about getting Freiermuth out on the field a little more involved. That's the guy we thought should be wide receiver 2. This is the guy that usually, besides Chris Boswell, is the kryptonite to this Cincinnati Bengals team. In a must-win situation like this, Rodgers has to play above board. He has to play like the player that we expect week in and week out, even at his accelerated age.
100%. This is going to be a game that turns on how Aaron Rodgers plays, right? As well as the defense. I am moderately optimistic that the defense has figured a little bit of something out, right? Losing Alex Highsmith for the game, Darius Slay being down for the game. They do have a lot of pieces that are going to go in and out. That is problematic, right? But I think Nick Herbig is a capable backup to Alex. We've seen that. I think that they'll have their chances to do things and make some splash. And it does feel like they've gotten a little better at getting some of those 3 and outs, getting off the field instead of not. Over the last 2 games, we've sort of seen that. Again, as I said, that's not against T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. So this is a big test in my view. the game will swing on those two things. Can the defense continue to play at the level they have over the last two games? And can the offense, specifically Aaron Rodgers, not stink up the joint the way he did during the Chargers game?
Steelers 4-5 against the spread this year. Bengals are 3-6, their exact record, their real record against the spread. They're 1-3 on the road. The Bengals are 13th in points scored, dead last, points allowed, 33 plus average per game. The Steelers are dropped a little. They're in the middle of the pack for the league, 16th overall with about a little over 23.5 points per game, yielding 24.4. That's 20th. Should be a scoring fest. The Steelers are +6 in the takeaway category. The Bengals are -5. As far as your passing and rushing offenses, the Bengals are 13th. They're still dead last in rushing offense, 32nd with 78 per game. The Steelers are right behind that, that with only 85 per game, 30th overall. Their passing game only 195, actually worse than the Bengals, of course, with Joe Flacco, Joe Cool slinging it around. The Steelers pass defense is dead last in the league right now by just a slimmer margin than the Bengals, who are 30th. It's a 9-yard difference on average. The Bengals are also worst against the run as well. They're 30th and 32nd overall, where the Steelers are 14th against the run. Don't let Chase Brown run around on you. Get Jaylen Warren going, and please get like 35 to 36 minutes time of possession. Protect the football, get the run game going, win the time of possession. I think that's, as long as you're not minus in the takeaway category, they can walk away with this one. That's my keys to victory here.
Okay, we'll see.
Here we go.
What is he going to say?
I had to do this with, I used TJ last week.
Okay. Bobblehead. What are they going to win or are they going to lose? He says they win. So he says they're victorious. Look, I'm going to go along with you. To me, the keys are.
I don't really know.
That's a big head. TJ's. That's a big head bobblehead.
Yeah,
that head is
the big
huge.
Head bobblehead.
Yeah.
That's a FOCO exclusive right there.
Yeah. If they turn the ball over, they'll lose this game. I mean, it's that simple. I think if they turn the ball over, they're going to have a hard time winning the game. As long as they are at least even in turnovers, if they win the turnover battle, I feel really confident that they're going to win the game. But they can't do the stuff that they did the last game. They would have won the last game if they don't have 2 turnovers. So that's a big thing that they're going to have to handle. They can't turn the ball over. I agree with you. Get the run game going. Get time of possession. Keep the Bengals offense off the field as much as you can, and you should be able to come away with a victory.
Yeah, even if it's just some field goals, I would imagine. Just get some first downs. Move some chains. They were going for some chunk plays against LA. They were there, but the execution,
he just missed them.
Yeah, flat out missed on all.
Yeah.
How many times? Well, I know you weren't at camp with me, but I was going to say,
I don't want to keep saying it, but everybody's been saying it's the worst game he's had of his career. And it
not
really
his
was.
career. He's had some bad games with the Jets, but that was his worst game in a Steelers uniform for sure.
It would have been his worst game of his career had they not got the garbage time touchdown. And so I'm throwing that out, and it's his worst game of his career.
Yeah, I mean, he got a little bit there. I keep thinking that they only scored 3. I completely disregard
his rating
that
was like 19
before it was
that
pretty
garbage
bad.
time.
It was bad. But he did have, I think he had like a 13 with the Jets last year or something. He had one, and there was a few during his time in Green Bay that weren't necessarily, not everybody had the greatest of games, but like I was talking with my cousin about this, he was like, you know what, even every time Roethlisberger had a bad game from about like 2015 or 2016, fans were starting to talk about, shoveling the dirt over him 6 feet under, and who are you going to draft to replace him, all the way until he actually retired, which was always ridiculous. I'm not ready to write off Rodgers just yet. He went in the last week 17 touchdowns. Do that. I guess it works the same way as the 6-7, but he was up there. He's still top 5 with 18. Now his yards aren't as much, and that's cooled off a little bit. You got to get DK Metcalf going. It's the reason you brought him in. And Jaylen Warren. I think Jaylen Warren's just one guy that is, every time he seems to touch the ball over the last few years, he's been the spark for this offense. Got to get him going. I mean, why else do you have a sixth offensive lineman out there? Why else do you have 3 tight ends out there? Let's run the freaking ball. I mean, even Kenneth Gainwell, what did Warren have last week? Like 14 touches? It's not enough. I know you don't watch, you're not the Step Brothers guy, but it's like there's a scene in Step Brothers where he only leaves him $20 and he's like, what if I want wings? It's not enough. It's not 14 carries is not enough. You can't, got to get this guy 20 to 25 in volume and get him moving. I know you give 2 or 3 to Caleb Johnson. I'm not worried about getting Caleb Johnson going anymore. Get Jaylen Warren going first, then you could spell him with Caleb Johnson.
I'm very close to considering Caleb Johnson a non-entity. I'm just not impressed with what I've seen. With what I've seen thus far, I'm just not impressed. Either he's going to have to drop weight and get quicker or do something, because I don't see it. But I agree. They need to get Jaylen Warren running. They need to get him going. I'm going to tell you, until another receiver, whether it's Freiermuth, whether it's Roman Wilson, whether it's Calvin Austin, until somebody else steps up and puts a little bit of the fear of danger into a defense, DK's going to have trouble, right? We've said it. People have been concerned about it. And it's just true. If DK's the only thing you have to worry about, you can take DK away. It's just that simple. So they have to have somebody else step up and try and do it. That's why you almost never see him single covered, because they don't have to.
Yep, totally with you. Little 2%er stuff here before we sign off for this pregame show. One of the more ridiculous things I've seen all week, and I addressed this in one of our reels / shorts, TikTok, whatever videos that I did. And no, actually I didn't, not for this one. But I was thinking about it, and I think I posted something else, trading Mike Tomlin. And it's like, well, you get for Peyton, I think it was a first and a second round pick that the Broncos gave up, along with swapping I think it was the third with the second swap, and then they got a first round pick. So they got a first and a second for a third and Peyton, basically. Something like that is what the what the Saints got from the Denver Broncos, right? But what did that materialize for the Saints? You know what I mean? Like, you're talking about a total rebuild, and you're talking about a coach. I know people get tired of seeing this is a team of 5 wins. We see some inconsistency. We see some stuff that's not working out. They're not 100% healthy. There have been moving parts. There have been things that have changed throughout week to week. But they beat the Patriots. They beat the Colts. I know, like you said, well, nobody knew what the Patriots were going to be by that point. Well, it still doesn't change the matter of the fact that they beat that team. It's week 3. It wasn't like week 1, some big surprise, full extension of the preseason. They went into their house and they beat that team. They beat a Colts team that nobody was giving them any chance to beat. The players have to execute too. So I'm not blaming Mike Tomlin for a loss last week. And the people who think that they trade Mike Tomlin and it somehow becomes a better football team and you rebuild, you could be rebuilding for 20 years like the Browns have been doing, like the Raiders have been doing, like the Giants have been doing, the Miami Dolphins have been doing. Draft picks to me don't, especially when people are also criticizing Omar Khan. And now they're talking about, oh, well, look at what he did. He traded for DK Metcalf. He might have used the pick to do that. Well, that's what you use when you trade Tomlin and you get draft capital. You're using that capital to rebuild your team. You might trade for another player. Maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe they draft someone. And we've seen players not work out. We just talked about Caleb Johnson being one of those. I know he was a 3rd rounder. It's really weird for me to see the logic of some fans with a trade to Tomlin type deal. Think about the draft as some lottery where you're absolutely going to hit the Powerball, you're going to hit the money ball, and you become the instant millionaire. A lot of times you end up with a useless piece of paper when it comes to draft picks. Yeah. And
more
that is
often than not.
Yeah, more often than not. Will Mike Tomlin coach forever? I mean, he was pretty young when he started. People tend to think that he'll never, ever, ever lose his job. There may be a time when he steps away and we don't know who would be the replacement and how they may fare. Maybe it's a spark and it's something where they just take off, right? And then it could be the other way where you're like, man, I really wish. I remember those glory days where there was like 20 straight seasons where the Steelers didn't lose. They were at least in the playoffs. And if you're in the playoffs, you're at least in the conversation. And you could go from that to being like a team that, you know, constantly drafting in the top 5. Chicago Bears are another team that are like that as well over the years. Look at the Lions. It took them forever. Look at the Bills. It took them forever. So I'm not ready to put my stock into a fire or get rid of Tomlin, especially when you're sitting here. If you put this game away and you're at 6-4 and you create a little separation, there are some winnable games. And depending on how they win this game, it might give you a little more faith. It might encourage you a little more as to how the rest of the season ends up playing out.
I want to just second this. You know, the draft is a crapshoot. It is the lottery at best. You know, as we say every year when the draft rolls around, you're more likely to miss than you are to hit. It's just the way it works. You know, number 1 picks, top 10 picks, they fail left and right. There is no guarantee on any of them. The idea of trading Mike Tomlin so that you can immediately get better, you know, you just don't know who's going to take over, who's the next coach. Are you going to be able to get somebody to come in? You know, you just, it's not going to happen. I mean, you know, it's nice speculation sometimes when you feel like, okay, that's the shakeup we need. Let's change the coaches. I do think there needs to be changes in the coaching ranks. I think Terrell Austin needs to be gone. We've said that for almost 2 years now. I'm not sure the offensive line coach is doing the job that he needs to do. Because I'm not impressed overall with the way the offensive line is gelling and playing.
Pat Meyer has not been.
Yeah, I'm not impressed. So, I mean, I do think there needs to be shakeups in the coaching ranks. But the idea that they're going to get rid of Mike Tomlin will walk away when Mike Tomlin wants to walk away. And unless it is very obvious that he has lost the team, right?
And someone said that on one of the Reels comments. They say he lost this team, and I'm like,
he hasn't lost this team.
No, he hasn't. There's
no evidence. There's been a bunch. You got to be real careful because for some reason lately, I've noticed this on Facebook. There are just a bunch of bullshit posts that are going up that are 100% lies. They're 100% fake bullcrap.
Breaking news.
Yeah, and you know, they give you that bullshit where you got a picture that looks legitimate with a little quote, and the quote isn't even legitimate, and they don't give you a link until you go into the comments, and then it's some bogus thing. You got to be careful. Don't trust anything. Don't trust anything that you read on the internet until you have validated it and backed it up, because almost all of this, and why all of a sudden it seems more prevalent than it ever was is probably because AI makes it a lot easier to create some nonsense and stories, but it's just bad. And
well, it's everyone trying to make.
There's no evidence at all that Mike Tomlin has lost the team.
They're trying to make a buck off the content, and they're not trying to do it like, you know, putting in the sweat equity like you or I do. They do it by creating anything original. They do it by just creating something sensational, and they're all like the Steel Iron Warriors Steelers page or something stupid like that.
Yeah,
and I roll my eyes. You're in some of the same groups I'm in, and I see people share this, and they're like,
I've stopped going in any of the Facebook groups. I just don't do it.
And it was like, my favorite one is the one that gets reused every week, that the NFL is investigating the officiating, which we would love to see them do, but it was like the controversial calls, and you could copy paste the two teams that are in it, and they reuse it, as I've seen it with the Chiefs, I've seen it with the Bills, the Packers, like, you know, and they just
even Chris Collingsworth says that they should be invested. It's baloney.
It is malarkey.
Yes.
Well, Brian, we're gonna sign off here. We gave our predictions. Bengals got one on a short week in Cincinnati. Time for the Steelers to get a little bit of payback. Time for Rodgers to get some redemption for last week and still show that he's the guy that could do it. The shame is a lot of people are going to have that mindset. They're going to have that picture in their head because they've seen the Steelers defense fall flat in primetime against the Packers. They saw Rodgers fall flat in primetime last week against the Chargers. Not as many people as you saw are seeing this game this week at 1 o'clock. So let's see if they could at least try and change their own narrative in-house And when they get back to one of these big marquee games that are coming up on the schedule, Buffalo Bills on the horizon at Acrisure after this one in a couple of weeks. Let's see. Then they could show everybody just the team that they are. I don't think they're going to lay on their back. I don't think Mike Tomlin is that lackadaisical of a coach. I don't think he's lost any locker room. He's lost players before, like Deontay Johnson or George Pickens.
Antonio Brown.
Well, Antonio Brown, he's just it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Ewan McGregor version. That you are truly lost.
Yes, he is definitely
That's
truly
the Antonio
lost.
Brown, and I think that has to do with another guy hitting him in the head and knocking him into another dimension. So. We won't get into AB. There's like good AB and bad AB, and I liked good AB and bad AB. I just don't even want to talk about. So that guy's got his own issues. We'll put it that way. Extradited and whatnot. So folks, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, leave a rating or review wherever you may be watching or listening from. We appreciate you supporting the Steel City Underground podcast. My name's Joe Kuzma. My good friend here, Mr. Brian E. Roach, thank you for returning. Brian, any parting shots?
No.
Usually not. I put you on the spot, and it's just any game day superstitions that you do, because I always have to wear the home, away, throwback, whatever the jersey they wear on the field, and have a terrible towel at hand.
I used to post all this crap on Facebook where I would be like, okay, I'm gearing up. I had the shoes, I had the socks, I had the underwear, I had the pants, I had a jersey. You know what? I stopped wearing anything. I might wear a shirt. I don't wear a jersey anymore on game day. I don't bother getting the shoes on. I don't get all wrapped up because no, I don't. I wear clothes. Nobody wants to see me sitting naked in the living room watching the game. So, but I don't go all out anymore. And that's because it felt like when I did, they lost every time.
No, sir. I'll have the salute the service. I may even grab the Arctic camo towel and bring it along. I'm not the biggest fan of some of the merchandise they have this year for a lot of the salute the service just looks out of place. So I'll say that much. I've never been a fan of like the OD green stuff.
I'm not a camo fan, so I don't buy camo
but
stuff.
This hat, I thought this one was really cool because it was so much different than everything else they usually do. They got lazy again. The one they got this year, they just dyed this one. This was last year's sideline hat. This year they just dyed them green. It's the same exact hat and a colorized flag, I think, on the side.
I'm not going to do that. Yeah,
that's not very original. It's just like the shoes they did this year. But anyways, that's conversation for another time. Drop us your game day superstitions in the comments, folks. Thank you, 2%ers who have listened to this part. If you don't remember what a 2%er is, go to the very end of last show where I described that. Until next time, my name's Joe. His name's Brian. As always, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.